The text message that destroyed my marriage came through while I was cross-examining a witness about insurance fraud. My phone buzzed against my leg, and like an idiot, I glanced down at the preview. Can't wait for tonight. Ryan will never know what hit him. Alan. The message was meant for my wife, Lisa, but she'd grabbed my phone by mistake that morning. Classic Lisa move, always in a rush, always assuming the world would bend around her mistakes. I'm Ryan Carter, and I used to think I had it all figured out. Successful law practice in Dallas, beautiful wife, 2 great kids, house in the suburbs that screamed, "We made it." The American dream wrapped up in a neat little package with a mortgage and a 2-car garage. But that text message, that was the thread that unraveled everything. I managed to finish the cross-examination without completely losing my composure, though opposing counsel kept giving me strange looks. Probably because I kept smiling, not a happy smile, the kind of smile that makes people nervous, like they're watching a man's sanity slip away in real time. After court, I sat in my BMW in the parking garage, staring at that message. Alan Becker, my oldest friend, the guy who'd been best man at my wedding, who came to our barbecues, who played catch with my kids in the backyard, the same Alan who'd been going through a messy divorce for the past 6 months, crying on my shoulder about how his ex-wife took him for everything. The same Alan who'd been spending an awful lot of time at our house lately, always showing up when I was at work. I scrolled through Lisa's other messages. Most were innocent, grocery lists, school pickup schedules, reminders about parent-teacher conferences, but there were gaps, long stretches where she'd clearly deleted conversations. My hands were shaking as I called my office. "Derek, I need you to handle the Morrison deposition tomorrow. Something's come up." "Everything okay, partner?" Derek Walsh had been my law partner for 8 years. He could read my moods better than my wife could. "Just family stuff. I'll call you later." I drove home through the Dallas suburbs, past perfectly manicured lawns and houses that all looked like mine, cookie-cutter success stories hiding cookie-cutter secrets. Our house sat on a corner lot in Meadowbrook Heights, one of those neighborhoods where the HOA fines you for leaving your garbage cans out too long. Lisa had insisted on this particular house because it had good bones and excellent resale value. She always talked about our life in real estate terms. Her white Range Rover was in the driveway. So was Alan's red Porsche. I parked on the street and walked around to the back gate. Through the kitchen window, I could see them sitting at our breakfast bar, Lisa's hand on Alan's arm. They were laughing about something, heads close together like teenagers sharing secrets. The rage that hit me was pure and clean, like a surgical blade, not the messy, explosive anger you see in movies. This was calculated fury, the kind that makes you very, very careful about what you do next. I walked through the front door like I owned the place, which I did. "Hey, honey." Lisa's voice was bright and cheerful, but her hand jerked away from Alan's arm like she'd been burned. "You're home early." Court ended sooner than expected. I set my briefcase down carefully, keeping my voice level. "Alan, didn't expect to see you here." Alan stood up, all 6'2" of him, flashing that $1 million smile that had been selling houses for 15 years. "Just stopped by to see if you wanted to grab dinner this weekend. You know, guys' night out. Help me get back in the dating game." The audacity was breathtaking. He was planning to sleep with my wife while asking me to help him meet other women. "Sounds great," I said, matching his smile. "Lisa, can I talk to you about something upstairs?" She followed me to our bedroom, her heels clicking on the hardwood floors. I closed the door and handed her the phone. "You grabbed mine by mistake this morning." She took it without looking, but I watched her face when she saw the message notification. The color drained from her cheeks, then rushed back in a wave of red. "Ryan, I can explain." "I'm sure you can, but not right now. We have a guest." I walked back downstairs, leaving her standing there with her mouth open. Alan was still in the kitchen, helping himself to a beer from my refrigerator. "Everything okay up there?" he asked, not quite meeting my eyes. "Perfect. Just had to give Lisa her phone back. You know how she gets when she can't check her messages." We made small talk for another 10 minutes. Work, sports, the weather. Normal conversation between 2 men, one of whom was planning to destroy the other's life. Alan left around 6, promising to call about dinner plans. Lisa came downstairs after his car pulled away. She'd changed clothes and fixed her makeup like she was preparing for battle. "We need to talk," she said. "Yes, we do, but not tonight. I need time to think." "Ryan, please. It's not what you think." I looked at my wife of 12 years. Really looked at her. The blonde hair that cost $300 every 6 weeks to maintain, the designer clothes that filled our walk-in closet, the jewelry I'd bought her for birthdays and anniversaries, thinking I was showing her how much I loved her. When had she started looking at me like I was an obstacle instead of a husband? "What I think," I said carefully, is that you and Alan have been having an affair. What I think is that you've been lying to me for months, maybe longer. What I think is that my best friend has been coming to my house, eating my food, drinking my beer, and planning to steal my wife. She opened her mouth to deny it, but I held up my hand. Don't, not yet. Give me tonight to process this. Tomorrow we'll talk about what happens next. I slept in the guest room that night, staring at the ceiling and listening to Lisa cry through the walls. But I wasn't thinking about her tears. I was thinking about that smile on Alan's face, about the casual way he'd asked me to help him with his dating life. They thought I was weak. They thought I was the kind of man who would just roll over and take it, who would quietly accept being betrayed and humiliated. They were about to learn how wrong they were. I woke up at 5 a.m. with perfect clarity. The emotional chaos of yesterday had crystallized into something much more dangerous, a plan. Lisa was still asleep when I left for the office. I'd heard her moving around until nearly 3 in the morning, probably texting Alan, probably planning their next move. Let them plan. I had planning of my own to do. My first stop was a coffee shop downtown where I met with Marcus Thompson, a private investigator I'd used for insurance cases. Marcus was a former Dallas PD detective who'd gone private after a disagreement with department politics. He was thorough, discreet, and had a flexible relationship with legal boundaries. Divorce case? He asked, stirring sugar into his coffee. Potentially. I need to know what my wife's been doing for the past few months. Phone records, credit card statements, surveillance if necessary. Marcus nodded. The usual cheating spouse package. What makes you think she's stepping out? I showed him the text message. He read it twice, then looked up at me with something like sympathy. Your best friend? Since college. Those are the worst ones. They know all your blind spots. He pocketed his phone after taking a photo of the message. Give me a week. I'll have everything you need. I need more than evidence of an affair, Marcus. I need to know everything. Financial records, phone calls, where they go, what they do. I need to understand the full scope of what I'm dealing with. Something in my voice must have warned him that this wasn't going to be a standard divorce case. How far are you willing to go with this, Ryan? As far as it takes. Back at the office, I started making my own preparations. I pulled all of our joint financial records, documented every asset, every account, every investment. Lisa had always been happy to let me handle the money, which meant she had no idea how carefully I'd structured our finances. The house was in both our names, but I'd been making payments from a trust account. The kids' college funds were untouchable. Most of our liquid assets were in accounts that required both signatures to access, but I'd been quietly moving money into an account Lisa didn't know about for the past 2 years. Money I'd been saving to surprise her with a dream vacation for our 15th anniversary. Funny how life works out. Derek knocked on my office door around noon. You look like hell, partner. What's going on? I told him everything. Derek had been through his own divorce 3 years earlier, so he understood the landscape I was navigating. Jesus, Ryan. Alan Becker? I never liked that guy. Too smooth, you know? Like a used car salesman in an expensive suit. I need you to handle my active cases for the next few weeks. I'm going to be distracted. Whatever you need, but be careful, okay? Don't do anything that'll hurt you in court. That evening, I came home to find Lisa in the kitchen, cooking my favorite dinner. She'd set the table with our good china, lit candles, opened a bottle of wine. The full domestic goddess performance. I thought we should talk, she said, not quite meeting my eyes. I sat down across from her, noting how she'd positioned herself so the candlelight hit her face just right. Even now, even caught red-handed, she was trying to manipulate me. I'm listening. What you saw yesterday, it's not what you think. Alan's been going through a really hard time with his divorce, and I've just been trying to be a good friend. Sometimes that means listening to him, being supportive. And the text message? She had an answer ready. He was talking about a surprise birthday party for you. That's what he meant about you not knowing what hit you. The lie was so smooth, so perfectly delivered, that for a moment I almost believed her. This was the woman I'd fallen in love with. Beautiful, charming, quick on her feet. But now I could see the calculation behind it, the way she was testing to see if I'd accept this obvious fabrication. My birthday's not for 4 months, Lisa. We wanted to plan something really special. I took a sip of wine, buying time to control my temper. Show me your phone. What? Your phone. If you're telling the truth, show me your messages with Alan. The mask slipped for just a second. I saw panic flicker across her face before she got it under control. I don't think that's necessary. You should trust me. Trust. I set down my wine glass. That's interesting. Should I trust you the way I trusted Alan? Should I trust you the way I trusted my wife when she said she was going to book club 3 nights a week? Ryan, Should I trust you the way I trusted both of you when you were sitting in my kitchen yesterday, touching each other like I was too stupid to notice? She started crying then. Real tears, not the calculated kind. But I was past the point where her tears could move me. I made a mistake, she whispered. It didn't mean anything. It was just, I was lonely, and you're always working, and Alan was there. How long? It doesn't matter. How long, Lisa? 3 months, maybe 4. So while I'd been working 60-hour weeks to pay for her lifestyle, she'd been screwing my best friend. While I'd been planning our anniversary surprise, she'd been planning her exit strategy. Are you in love with him? She looked up at me, mascara streaking down her cheeks. I don't know. Maybe. I'm confused. Well, let me help clear up some of that confusion. Tomorrow I'm filing for divorce. You can be confused on your own time. I stood up from the table, leaving the expensive dinner untouched. Ryan, wait. Please. We can work this out. We can go to counseling. I'll end it with Alan, I promise. The time for promises was before you started sleeping with my best friend in my house. She flinched like I'd slapped her. Don't be crude. Crude? You want to see crude? Wait until this gets out in the neighborhood. Wait until your book club friends find out what you've really been reading. I left her sitting at the table with her candles and her wine and her carefully prepared lies. In the guest room, I called a locksmith and scheduled him to come the next day while Lisa was at her yoga class. Then I called Marcus. I need that information faster than a week, I told him. I can have preliminary results by tomorrow afternoon, but it'll cost extra. Money's not an issue. Okay, but Ryan? Whatever you're planning, make sure you can live with it afterward. I hung up and stared at the ceiling. Could I live with it? Could I live with destroying the woman I'd loved for 12 years, the mother of my children? Then I thought about Alan's smile, about Lisa's hand on his arm, about the casual way they'd been planning my humiliation. Yeah, I could live with it just fine. Marcus called me at 10 the next morning while I was reviewing a contract that might as well have been written in Sanskrit for all the attention I could pay it. We need to meet, now. What did you find? Not over the phone. Meet me at the same place in an hour. The coffee shop was nearly empty at mid-morning. Marcus had claimed a corner table and was nursing what looked like his 4th cup of coffee. He slid a manila envelope across the table when I sat down. Your wife's been busy, he said. The first photo showed Lisa and Alan entering a hotel downtown. The timestamp showed it was taken 3 weeks ago at 2:30 p.m., right when she'd told me she was getting her hair done. The Adolphus Hotel. They've been there 6 times in the past month, always the same room, always on days when you were in court. I flipped through more photos. Lisa and Alan at lunch, Lisa and Alan shopping together, Lisa and Alan kissing in the parking lot of a restaurant I'd never been to. It gets worse, Marcus said. The next set of photos showed Alan with another woman, brunette, younger than Lisa, laughing at something he was saying. Who is she? Jennifer Walsh, 28, works at Alan's real estate office. According to my sources, they've been involved for about 6 months. The timeline hit me like a physical blow. 6 months? But he's been seeing Lisa for 4 months. Your boy Alan's been playing both sides. Gets better. Jennifer doesn't know about Lisa, and Lisa doesn't know about Jennifer. I stared at the photos, trying to process what I was seeing. Alan wasn't just betraying me. He was betraying Lisa, too. He was playing both women, probably planning to dump whichever one became inconvenient first. There's more, Marcus said, producing another envelope. Financial records. Your wife's been spending money you probably don't know about. Credit card statements showed charges at expensive restaurants, lingerie stores, a jewelry shop I'd never heard of, thousands of dollars over the past 4 months. She opened a new credit card without telling you, used your joint income information to qualify for a pretty high limit. That's illegal. Technically, yes, but proving she did it without your knowledge might be tricky. I kept flipping through the records. Hotel charges, spa treatments, shopping sprees. She'd been financing her affair with our money, buying herself gifts with funds that should have been going toward our kids' future. How much total? About $15,000 so far. $15,000. That was half of what I'd been saving for our anniversary trip. Money that should have gone toward Emma's orthodontics, toward Jake's baseball camp, toward the 1,000 little expenses that came with raising a family. What about Alan? What's his financial situation? Marcus smiled grimly. That's where it gets interesting. Alan Becker's broke. What? The divorce cleaned him out worse than he's been telling people. His ex-wife got the house, half his business assets, and alimony that's bleeding him dry. He's been living off credit cards and loans for months. The picture was becoming clearer. Alan wasn't just having an affair with my wife. He was positioning himself for a financial rescue. Lisa represented stability, a house, a lifestyle he couldn't afford on his own anymore. So he's using her. Looks like it, and she's using your money to make it easy for him. I closed the envelopes and sat back in my chair. My wife was cheating on me with my best friend, who was also cheating on her with someone else, while she spent our savings to finance the whole mess. I need you to keep digging, I told Marcus. I want to know everything. Every lie, every secret, every dirty detail. What are you planning, Ryan? I'm planning to give them exactly what they deserve. That afternoon, I drove past Alan's office. His Porsche was in the parking lot, but according to Marcus's surveillance photos, he should have been at the hotel with Lisa right now. I called his office. Becker Real Estate. This is Jennifer. Perfect, the other woman. Hi, this is Ryan Carter. I'm looking for Alan. Is he available? I'm sorry, Mr. Carter. Alan's showing a property this afternoon. Can I take a message? Sure. Just tell him his friend Ryan called about dinner plans. I hung up and drove to the Adolphus Hotel. Sure enough, Lisa's Range Rover was in the parking garage, along with a rental car that probably belonged to Alan. He was smart enough not to drive his distinctive Porsche to their meetings, but not smart enough to pick a different hotel every time. Amateurs. I parked across the street and called Lisa's phone. It went straight to voicemail. Hi, honey. Just checking in. Hope your yoga class is going well. Love you. Then I sat in my car and waited. They emerged 2 hours later, Lisa looking flushed and satisfied, Alan looking like the cat who'd eaten the canary. They kissed goodbye in the parking garage, then went to their separate cars. I followed Lisa home, staying well back. She stopped at Starbucks, probably to establish an alibi, then at the grocery store, building her cover story, making sure she had receipts and witnesses to account for her afternoon. When I got home that evening, she was in the kitchen preparing dinner, humming to herself. She looked happy in a way she hadn't looked in months. How was your day? She asked, kissing my cheek like the perfect wife. Productive. How was yoga? Great. Really challenging class today. I'm exhausted. The lie rolled off her tongue so easily. She'd probably been practicing it in the car. I ran into Jennifer Walsh at lunch today, I said, watching her face carefully. Do we know her? Nothing. Not even a flicker of recognition. I don't think so. Should we? She works with Alan. Seemed to know who I was. Oh, well, you know Alan. He talks about his friends. She turned back to the stove, but I caught the slight tension in her shoulders. Some instinct was warning her, but she couldn't put her finger on what. Speaking of Alan, he called earlier. Wants to grab dinner tomorrow night. That sounds nice. You two haven't spent much time together lately. The irony was breathtaking. She was encouraging me to spend time with the man who was sleeping with her, probably so she could have more opportunities to see him herself. Actually, I was thinking we could double date. You, me, Alan, and maybe he could bring Jennifer. Help him get back out there? This time I got a reaction. Her hand tightened on the wooden spoon she was using to stir the sauce. I thought you said he wasn't ready to date yet. Maybe it's time to push him out of his comfort zone. I don't think that's a good idea. He's still pretty raw from the divorce. Well, we'll see. I'll talk to him about it. That night, after Lisa fell asleep, I sat in my home office and started planning. Not just the divorce. That was the legal end of things. I was planning something much more comprehensive. Lisa and Alan thought they were so clever, sneaking around behind my back, spending my money, laughing at how stupid I was. They thought I was the kind of man who would just accept being betrayed, who would quietly go away and let them have their happy ending. They were about to learn that they'd made a serious miscalculation. I opened my laptop and started typing. By morning, I had the framework for their complete destruction. The next evening, I met Alan at Steakhouse Elite, one of those Dallas restaurants where the steaks cost more than most people make in a day. Alan's choice, of course. He always had expensive tastes, even when he couldn't afford them. He was already at the bar when I arrived, working on what looked like his second whiskey. His smile was as bright as ever, but I could see the stress lines around his eyes that hadn't been there 6 months ago. Ryan, good to see you, buddy. He clapped me on the back like we were still the college friends who'd stayed up all night talking about our dreams and ambitions. Alan, you look good. It was a lie. He looked like a man trying too hard to convince everyone, including himself, that his life wasn't falling apart. We got a table and ordered drinks. Alan launched into his usual routine. Funny stories about difficult clients, complaints about his ex-wife, casual name-dropping about properties he was supposedly selling. But I wasn't really listening. I was watching him, studying the man who'd been systematically betraying me for months. "So," I said when he paused to take a drink, "how's the dating scene treating you?" His laugh was just a little too loud. "Honestly, it's brutal out there. I'd forgotten how complicated it all is." "Maybe you need to start closer to home. Someone you already know. Someone who understands what you're going through." I watched his face carefully. Was that a flicker of guilt? Or just paranoia? "What do you mean?" "I mean, maybe you should consider someone from your office. That Jennifer girl seemed nice when I talked to her." This time there was definitely a reaction. He nearly choked on his whiskey. "Jennifer? She's just a kid. Barely out of college." "She's 28, Alan. That's hardly a kid." "How do you know how old she is?" "Perfect." He was rattled. "I asked. I'm a lawyer, remember? I ask questions for a living." He forced another laugh. "Right. Well, dating employees is always a bad idea. Too complicated." "Is it? Seems like it might be convenient. Someone who understands your work, your schedule, someone who's already part of your life." "Ryan, what's this really about? You're acting strange." I leaned back in my chair, letting the silence stretch between us. Alan had always been uncomfortable with silence. In college, he'd fill every pause with chatter, unable to just sit quietly with his thoughts. "I'm worried about you," I said finally. "You've been through a lot with the divorce, and I want to make sure you're making good choices." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means that sometimes when we're hurting, we make decisions that seem like good ideas at the time but end up causing more pain for everyone involved." His eyes narrowed slightly. "Are you trying to tell me something, Ryan?" "I'm trying to be a good friend. The kind of friend who looks out for you, even when you're not looking out for yourself." The waiter brought our steaks, and we ate in relative silence. I could see Alan's mind working, trying to figure out what I knew, what I suspected. He was smart enough to be worried, but not smart enough to just come clean. "How are Lisa and the kids?" he asked, trying to sound casual. "They're good. Lisa's been keeping busy with her book club and yoga classes. Seems happier lately, actually." "That's good. She deserves to be happy." "Yes, she does. We all do." I paid the check, despite Alan's half-hearted protests. As we walked to our cars, I put my hand on his shoulder. "Alan, I want you to know that no matter what happens, I'll always consider you family. But family looks out for each other. Family doesn't betray each other." He stopped walking. "Ryan, if there's something you want to say to me, just say it." I looked at him for a long moment. My oldest friend. The man who'd been best man at my wedding, who'd held my son when he was born, who'd been there for every major moment of my adult life. "I'm saying that I hope you're being careful. I hope you're thinking about the consequences of your actions. And I hope that when this all comes out, and it will come out, you'll remember that I gave you a chance to do the right thing." I got in my car and drove away, leaving him standing in the parking lot with a look of panic on his face. When I got home, Lisa was in the living room, reading a book. She looked up when I walked in, and I could see the question in her eyes. "How was dinner?" "Interesting. I think Alan's hiding something." She closed her book carefully. "What makes you say that?" "Just a feeling. He seemed nervous, distracted. I asked him about dating, and he got really uncomfortable. Maybe he's just not ready yet. Maybe, or maybe there's already someone in his life that he doesn't want to talk about." I sat down next to her on the couch, close enough that she couldn't avoid looking at me. "Lisa, if Alan was seeing someone, would you tell me?" "Of course. Why wouldn't I?" "Because sometimes people keep secrets to protect each other. Sometimes they think they're being loyal when they're actually being dishonest." She was quiet for a long moment, and I could see the wheels turning in her head. She was trying to figure out how much I knew, how much danger she was in. "Ryan, is there something specific you're worried about?" "I'm worried about a lot of things lately. I'm worried that the people I trust most might not be trustworthy. I'm worried that while I've been working to build our life, other people might be working to tear it down." "What are you talking about?" I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at our perfect suburban street with its perfect suburban secrets. "I'm talking about the fact that someone's been using our credit cards for expenses I don't recognize. I'm talking about the fact that you've been lying about where you go and what you do. I'm talking about the fact that my best friend can't look me in the eye anymore." When I turned around, she was staring at me with something that looked like fear. "Ryan, I hired a private investigator, Lisa." The words hung in the air between us like a final verdict. All the color drained from her face, and for a moment I thought she might faint. "You what?" "I hired a PI. I know about the hotel, I know about the credit cards, I know about all of it." She started crying then, but they weren't the manipulative tears from before. These were the tears of someone whose world was collapsing in real time? Please let me explain. There's nothing to explain. I've seen the photos, I've seen the receipts. I know exactly what you've been doing and how long you've been doing it. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. You've been having an affair with Alan for 4 months, spending our money to finance it and lying to my face every single day. She collapsed back onto the couch, sobbing. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It just happened. I didn't plan it. Bullshit. Affairs don't just happen. They're a series of choices, and you made every single one of them. I sat down across from her, far enough away that she couldn't reach for me, couldn't try to use physical contact to manipulate the situation. Here's what's going to happen, I said calmly. Tomorrow I'm filing for divorce. I'm also canceling all our joint credit cards and freezing our joint accounts. You can stay in the house until we work out custody arrangements, but your free ride is over. Ryan, please, we can work this out. I'll end it with Alan. I'll do whatever you want. You'll end it with Alan anyway, because he's been cheating on you too. She looked up at me through her tears. What? Jennifer Walsh. 28, works at his office. They've been together for 6 months, longer than he's been with you. I watched her face as the information sank in. The betrayal, the humiliation, the realization that she'd been played just as badly as I had. That's impossible. I have photos. The look in her eyes shifted from grief to rage. She'd been willing to accept that she'd hurt me, but the idea that Alan had been using her was unbearable. Show me. I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos Marcus had taken. Lisa and Alan at the hotel. Alan and Jennifer at lunch. Alan and Jennifer kissing in his office. He's been playing both of you, I said. You were never special to him, Lisa. You were just convenient. She stared at the photos for a long time, her tears drying up as anger took over. I'm going to ruin him, she whispered. No, you're not. You're going to do exactly what I tell you to do. She looked up at me, and for the first time in months, I had her complete attention. What do you mean? I smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. I mean that Alan thinks he's been playing us, but he's about to learn that he's been playing himself. Lisa called Alan that night. I listened from the kitchen while she sat in the living room, her voice shaking with rage. We need to talk. Now. I couldn't hear his response, but I could imagine his confusion. This wasn't part of their usual careful choreography of secret meetings and coded messages. I don't care if it's late. Meet me at the usual place in an hour. She hung up and looked at me with something that might have been respect for the first time in years. What do you want me to say to him? Nothing. I want you to listen. Record everything if you can. Let him talk. Let him make promises. Let him lie to you the way he's been lying to both of us. And then? And then you're going to understand exactly what kind of man you threw away your marriage for. She left 20 minutes later, and I followed at a distance. The hotel bar was dimly lit, designed for discreet conversations and clandestine meetings, perfect for what was about to happen. I found a table in the corner where I could see their booth, but they couldn't see me. Alan was already there, looking nervous and checking his phone. When Lisa walked in, I could see him relax slightly. He probably thought this was just another romantic rendezvous. He was wrong. Lisa slid into the booth across from him, her posture rigid with anger. Even from across the room, I could see Alan's confusion as he tried to read her mood. I couldn't hear their conversation, but I could see their body language. Alan reaching across the table, trying to take her hand, Lisa pulling away. Alan's face shifting from confusion to concern to something that looked like panic. Then Lisa pulled out her phone and showed him something. The photos, probably. Alan went completely still, staring at the screen like it was a final verdict. Which, in a way, it was. I watched him try to explain, his hands moving in animated gestures, his face desperate. Lisa just sat there, stone-faced, letting him dig his grave deeper with every word. Finally, she stood up. Alan grabbed her wrist, trying to stop her from leaving. She yanked her arm away and said something that made him flinch like she'd slapped him. Then she walked out, leaving him sitting alone in the booth with his lies and his panic. I waited until he left before following him to the parking garage. He was sitting in his car, head in his hands, when I knocked on his window. He looked up, and the expression on his face when he saw me was almost worth everything he'd put me through. Ryan, what are you doing here? Waiting for you to finish destroying my marriage? He got out of the car slowly, like a man walking to his execution. Look, I can explain. Can you? Can you explain how my best friend decided to sleep with my wife? Can you explain how you used my house, my hospitality, my trust to plan your little affair? It wasn't supposed to happen. It just... Don't. My voice was quiet, but something in it made him take a step back. Don't insult me with that "it just happened" bullshit. You made a choice. Every time you called her, every time you met her, every time you lied to my face, you made a choice. Ryan, please, you have to understand. What I understand is that you're broke. I understand that you saw my wife as a meal ticket, a way out of the hole your divorce left you in. I understand that you've been playing her the same way you've been playing Jennifer Walsh. His face went white. How do I know about Jennifer? Because I'm not the stupid, trusting fool you thought I was. I know about everything, Alan. The hotels, the credit cards, the lies, all of it. We stood there in the parking garage, two men who'd been friends for 20 years, looking at each other across a chasm that could never be bridged. What do you want from me? He asked finally. I want you to understand what you've lost. Not just my friendship, not just Lisa, but everything. Because this isn't over, Alan. This is just the beginning. Are you threatening me? I'm promising you. You wanted to play games with my life? Fine. Now we play by my rules. I got back in my car and drove home, leaving him standing alone in the garage with the wreckage of his schemes. Lisa was waiting for me in the kitchen, a bottle of wine open on the counter. She looked exhausted, drained by the emotional confrontation. He denied it at first, she said without looking up. Even when I showed him the photos, he tried to tell me it wasn't what it looked like. And then? And then I told him I knew about the money, about how he's been using me to pay for his lifestyle while he screws his secretary. She poured herself another glass of wine with shaking hands. He said he loved me. Can you believe that? After everything, he said he loved me and wanted to be with me. What did you tell him? I told him he was pathetic. I told him he was a liar and a user and that I never wanted to see him again. She looked up at me then, her eyes red from crying. Ryan, I know I don't have the right to ask this, but is there any chance? Can we try to work this out? I looked at my wife of 12 years, the mother of my children, the woman who'd shared my bed, my dreams, my life, and then thrown it all away for a man who'd been using her as badly as she'd been using me. No, I said simply. We can't. Please. I know I made a terrible mistake, but Lisa, this wasn't a mistake. This was a betrayal. You didn't slip and fall into bed with Alan. You chose him over me, over our family, over everything we built together. But I choose you now. I want to fix this. You don't get to choose me now. You had your chance to choose me every day for 4 months, and you chose him instead. You chose him when you lied about where you were going. You chose him when you spent our money on your affair. You chose him when you sat at our dinner table and smiled at me while planning your next meeting. She started crying again, but I was past the point where her tears could move me. The divorce papers will be filed tomorrow. You can stay in the house until we work out custody, but I want you to understand something. This isn't going to be amicable. This isn't going to be easy. You betrayed me in the worst possible way, and there will be consequences. What kind of consequences? I smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant expression. The kind that makes sure everyone knows exactly what you did. The kind that makes sure Alan pays for thinking he could destroy my life without consequences. The kind that makes sure neither of you ever forgets what it costs to betray someone who trusted you. I left her sitting in the kitchen with her wine and her regrets. In my office, I called Marcus. Phase 2 starts tomorrow, I told him. What's Phase 2? We make sure everyone knows what they did, and then we make sure they pay for it. The war was just beginning. The next morning I filed for divorce, but that was just the legal framework for what I really had planned. Marcus met me at my office with a thick folder of evidence, photos, financial records, phone logs, credit card statements, everything we'd need to destroy Alan and Lisa completely. You sure you want to go this far? He asked, spreading the documents across my desk. They made their choice. Now they live with the consequences. My first stop was Alan's office. I walked in like I owned the place, nodding to Jennifer at the reception desk. Is Alan available? I need to discuss some business with him. She buzzed his office. Mr. Carter is here to see you. I could hear the panic in Alan's voice through the intercom. Send him in. Alan's office was all glass and chrome, designed to impress clients with his success. Too bad it was all built on credit and lies. Ryan, what are you doing here? I closed the door behind me and sat down across from his desk. I wanted to give you one last chance to do the right thing. What are you talking about? I pulled out a folder and slid it across his desk. Financial records. Turns out you've been in breach of contract on 3 different property deals. Your clients are going to be very interested to know that their agent is bankrupt. He opened the folder, his face growing paler with each page. How did you get this? I'm a lawyer, Alan. I know how to find information. The question is, what are you going to do about it? This is blackmail. This is consequences. You wanted to play games with my life? Welcome to the game. I stood up and walked to the door, then turned back. Oh, and Alan? You might want to have a conversation with Jennifer. I think she deserves to know about your other relationships. I left him sitting at his desk, staring at the evidence of his financial ruin. My next stop was the country club, where Lisa spent her afternoons playing tennis and gossiping with her friends. I found her usual group at their regular table, picking at salads and dissecting the personal lives of everyone they knew. Ryan, Melissa, Lisa's best friend, looked surprised to see me. What brings you here? I wanted to talk to Lisa's friends. Let you know that we're getting divorced. The table went silent. In their world, divorce was common enough, but it was usually handled with careful discretion and strategic positioning. I'm sorry to hear that, Sarah said carefully. These things happen. Yes, they do, especially when your wife has been having an affair with your best friend for 4 months. The silence became absolute. I had their complete attention now. I thought you should know, since I'm sure Lisa will want your support during this difficult time. She's going to need friends who understand what it's like to throw away a 12-year marriage for a man who's been cheating on her with someone else. I pulled out my phone and showed them the photos. Lisa and Alan at the hotel, Alan and Jennifer at lunch, the credit card statements showing thousands of dollars spent on the affair. Alan Becker's broke, by the way, has been for months, so if any of you were thinking of using his real estate services, you might want to reconsider. I put my phone away and smiled at their shocked faces. Have a lovely afternoon, ladies. By evening, the story was all over our social circle. The phone calls started around 6. Friends, neighbors, business associates, all wanting to know if it was true. I confirmed every detail, adding just enough additional information to make sure the story spread like wildfire. Lisa came home around 8, her face streaked with tears and rage. How could you do this to me? How could you humiliate me like this? The same way you humiliated me. The same way you spent 4 months making me look like a fool while you slept with my best friend. That's different. How? How is it different? Because I kept it private. I didn't tell everyone we know. You kept it private? Lisa, you were meeting him at the country club. You were using our joint credit cards. Half the neighborhood probably suspected something was going on. She sank into a chair, the fight going out of her. My friends won't even talk to me. Melissa hung up on me. Sarah blocked my calls. Those weren't your friends. Those were gossips who enjoyed your drama as long as they weren't part of it. What about the kids? What happens when they find out? They'll find out that their mother made a choice to destroy our family. They'll find out that actions have consequences. Ryan, please, I know you're angry, but this is too much. Can't we handle this privately? Like you handled your affair privately? My phone rang. It was Marcus. Alan's been fired, he said without preamble. His clients found out about his financial situation and pulled their listings. The real estate board is investigating him for fraud. What about Jennifer? She quit this afternoon. Apparently she didn't appreciate finding out about his other relationships from his clients. I hung up and looked at Lisa. Alan's been fired. Jennifer's gone. His clients are suing him. Turns out when you build your life on lies, it doesn't take much to bring the whole thing crashing down. You destroyed him. He destroyed himself. I just made sure everyone knew about it. And me? What about me? What about you, Lisa? You made your choice? You chose Alan over me, affair over marriage, lies over truth. Now you get to live with the consequences. She started crying again, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no regret, no desire to comfort her. The kids are staying with my parents tonight, I said. Tomorrow we'll tell them about the divorce. You can explain to them why Mommy decided that her boyfriend was more important than their family. I can't face them. I can't tell them what I did. Then I will. But they're going to find out, Lisa. Everyone's going to find out. That's the price of betrayal. I left her crying in the living room and went to my office. On my desk was a letter from Alan's lawyer, threatening to sue me for defamation and harassment. I called Derek. Alan's trying to sue me. On what grounds? Defamation. Says I ruined his reputation and cost him his job. Derek laughed. Good luck with that. Truth is an absolute defense to defamation. If everything you said about him is true, he doesn't have a case. It's all true. I have documentation for every claim. Then let him sue. It'll just give us more opportunities to air his dirty laundry in public. The next morning, I woke up in the guest room to the sound of Lisa packing. She was throwing clothes into suitcases, moving with the frantic energy of someone trying to escape a burning building. Where are you going? My sister's. I can't stay here. I can't face the neighbors, the kids, anyone. Running away won't change what you did. I know, but I can't fix it either. You made sure of that. She zipped up her suitcase and looked at me with something that might have been hatred. You know what the worst part is. I actually thought you loved me enough to forgive me. I thought you'd fight for our marriage. I did love you that much, but you ruined that love when you chose Alan over me. You can't betray someone and then expect them to fight for you. So this is it? 12 years of marriage, 2 children, and you're just going to destroy everything? I didn't destroy anything, Lisa. You did. I'm just making sure everyone knows who's responsible. She left that afternoon, driving away from the house we'd bought together, the life we'd built together, the future we'd planned together. I stood in the driveway and watched her go, feeling nothing but a cold satisfaction. She'd made her choice, and now she was living with it. Alan called that evening, his voice shaking with rage. You snake! You destroyed my life. You destroyed your own life. I just made sure people knew about it. I'm going to sue you for everything you're worth. Go ahead. I look forward to deposing you under oath about your affair with my wife, your financial situation, and your relationship with Jennifer. I'm sure that'll be great for what's left of your reputation. He hung up on me, but I wasn't done. I called Marcus. I want you to make sure everyone knows about Alan's lawsuit. Make sure they understand that he's trying to sue me for telling the truth about his affair and his fraud. That'll just make him look worse. That's the point. 3 days later, Alan dropped the lawsuit. His lawyer had apparently explained to him that suing someone for defamation when you actually did everything they accused you of was not a winning strategy. Lisa's lawyer called to discuss settlement terms. I listened to the offer and laughed. Tell your client that she'll get exactly what she's entitled to under Texas law and not a penny more. Tell her that if she wants to fight this in court, I'll be happy to present all the evidence of her affair and her financial misconduct to a judge. The lawyer called back an hour later to accept my terms. 2 weeks after Lisa left, I was sitting in my office when Derek knocked on the door. There's someone here to see you. Says her name is Jennifer Walsh. She was younger than I'd expected, with dark hair and intelligent eyes that looked like they'd been crying recently. Mr. Carter, I wanted to apologize. For what? For my part in what happened. I didn't know Alan was married when we started seeing each other. I didn't know about your wife until after everything came out. You don't owe me an apology. You were lied to as much as anyone. I feel terrible about it, about all of it. Alan's very good at making people feel sorry for him. It's how he gets them to do things they wouldn't normally do. She nodded, tears starting to fall. I lost my job because of him. My reputation is ruined. Everyone thinks I'm the other woman who broke up your marriage. You weren't the other woman. Lisa was. You were just another one of Alan's victims. What am I supposed to do now? I looked at her for a long moment. Young, smart, devastated by a man who'd used her as badly as he'd used everyone else in his life. You're supposed to learn from this. You're supposed to remember that when someone seems too good to be true, they usually are. And you're supposed to move on and build a better life. Is that what you're doing? Building a better life? I thought about it. Was I building a better life? Or was I just destroying the people who'd hurt me? I'm making sure that the people who betrayed me understand that actions have consequences. What I do after that, we'll see. She left, and I sat alone in my office, thinking about consequences and choices and the price of betrayal. Lisa called that night, her voice small and broken. The kids won't talk to me. What did you expect? I hoped they'd understand that people make mistakes. This wasn't a mistake, Lisa. This was a choice. You chose to have an affair. You chose to lie to them. You chose to break up their family. I want to see them. That's between you and them. I won't stop you from calling, but I won't force them to talk to you either. They hate me. They're disappointed in you. They trusted you, and you let them down. What am I supposed to do? You're supposed to figure out how to live with what you did. You're supposed to learn from it and try to be better. And us? Is there any chance? No, there's no us anymore. You ruined that when you chose Alan. She hung up, and I sat in the quiet house, surrounded by the remnants of a life that had been built on trust and destroyed by betrayal. 3 months later, the divorce was final. Lisa got minimal alimony and supervised visitation with the kids. Alan had left Dallas, his real estate license revoked, his reputation destroyed. I kept the house, got primary custody of the children, and rebuilt my life from the ground up. People ask me if I regret what I did, if I think I went too far in my revenge against Lisa and Alan. The answer is simple. They made their choices, and I made mine. They chose betrayal, lies, and selfishness. I chose consequences. In the end, that's all any of us can do. Make our choices and live with the results. Lisa learned that betraying someone who trusted you completely comes with a price. Alan learned that using people eventually catches up with you. And I learned that sometimes the only way to rebuild your life is to completely destroy the people who tried to tear it down. They wanted to play games with my life, my marriage, my family. They thought I was weak, that I would just accept their betrayal and quietly go away. They were wrong, and now they know exactly how wrong they were.